We're waiting for one commissioner, so if you don't mind, we're just gonna give her a couple more minutes. We do have quorum without her, but since it's not overly stacked tonight, we have got a little bit of time. So if you can just bear with us, we'll give her till about 5 after. If she's not here, we'll go ahead and start, okay? consent agenda, which are to include, to approve the minutes of the planning and zoning meeting from March 5th. Could I get a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Seconded.
It's been moved and second to accept the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, I would briefly like to explain the public hearing process. We will open each item individually and begin with the staff report. Staff will report their findings on how the item adheres to our comprehensive plan and our unified development code. After staff has made their presentation, the applicant will come forward and present their case and respond to staff's comments. They will have 15 minutes to do so. After the applicant has finished, we will open the floor to public testimony. Each person will be called only once during public testimony. The clerk will call the names individually of those who have signed up on our website in advance. You may come to the microphones in chambers or you'll be unmuted on Zoom. Please state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address the commission. If you've previously sent pictures or a presentation for the meeting, it will be displayed on the screen and our clerk will help you run your presentation. If you've established that you are speaking on behalf of a larger group like an HOA, where others from that group will allow you to speak on their behalf, you will have up to 10 minutes. After all those who have signed up in advance have spoken, we will invite any others that may wish to testify. If you wish to speak on a topic, you may come forward in chambers, or if on Zoom, press the raise hand button in the Zoom app, or if you're listening on a telephone, please press *9 and wait for your name to be called. If you're listening on multiple devices, such as a computer and a phone, please be sure to mute those extra devices so we don't experience feedback and we can hear you clearly. When you are finished, if the commission does not have questions for you, you will return to your seat in chamber or be muted on Zoom and no longer have the ability to speak. Please remember, we will not call on you a second time. After all testimony has been heard, the applicant will be given another 10 minutes to come back and respond. When the applicant is finished responding to questions and concerns, we will close the public hearing and commissioners will have the opportunity to discuss and hopefully make final decisions or recommendations to City Council as needed. So with that in mind, let's open item number 2, H 2025-0007. Meridian Crossing Mixed Use Development has requested a continuance. Madam Clerk, do we have a date in mind for their continuance?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we have April 2nd.
Can I get a motion to accept the continuance for Meridian Crossing?
So moved.
Seconded.
It's been moved and second to continue Meridian Crossing Mixed Use Development to April 2nd. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is H 2026-0003 for North Meridian Fields at the southwest corner of Highway 16 and Chinden for annexation. And we will begin with the staff report.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Next item on the agenda is the annexation for the North Meridian Fields. The applicant requests annexation of 71.4 acres of land with the R8 and CN zoning districts. The R8 zoning district would consist of 47.8 acres and the CN zoning district would consist of 23.6 acres. The site is generally located at the southwest corner of State Highway 16 and Chinden Boulevard. And as shown on the screen, the existing zoning is RUT in Ada County, and the flume designation is mixed use interchange and medium density residential. So the Community Development and Public Works Directors made a determination for the subject development, allowing for the annexation to move forward without sewer services being readily available. Currently, the city is installing a sewer trunk line in McMillan Road that will ultimately serve this property once it's brought up Star Road and then to the east. So the applicant has the subject property falls within the field sub area plan at the northwest corner of the city's area of impact boundary. In accord with the field sub area plan, the general design identity of this area shall have a cohesive theme that is a modern rural, which applies to housing, amenities, streetscape, open space, and commercial developments. A high quality design is expected in this area. So the applicant has submitted a conceptual plan proposing single family detached residence on the southern 2/3 of the site and a commercial development on the northern third. At this time, detailed development plans have not been provided. However, the applicant did provide a road layout and open space layout for the larger residential portion of the development. This provides some high-level information into the integration of the residential and commercial uses, as well as Coal Valley Christian School, which will be directly to the south, which is already annexed into the city, but is awaiting to develop. In the applicant's narrative, they propose to exclude the following uses, including fuel sales facilities, convenience stores, storage facilities, and vehicle washing facilities. As the mixed-use interchange is intended for low-traffic generating uses, staff recommends further restricting the permitted uses by prohibiting drive-through establishments, vertically integrated residential uses, and retail stores exceeding 10,000 square feet. The primary reason behind this is to not allow big box retailers and drive-throughs, as they will generate significantly more traffic than the mixed-use interchange designation is intended for. The applicant has depicted the primary access points for the development coming off the future extension of North Owyhee Storm Avenue, a collector roadway, which is currently almost stubbed to this property line. There is a little bit of a road truss that was put up to get it fully to the property line, but it will be extended in the future and will connect to the south. And this extension will lead to a future signalization at Chinden Boulevard. In addition, the applicant is proposing to construct 2 east-west collectors that would connect North Ersatz Road or North Ersatz Place with Owyhee Storm Avenue in the future. And that would be collector 1 and collector 2 would be down here. So many of the details that typically be required with an annexation have not been provided, which is why staff is requiring a development agreement modification prior to any future applications or development being submitted. The future DA mod would be required to provide details from the field sub-area plan, comprehensive plan, and UDC, as well as updating the overall concept plan so we can see how the mixed-use area really integrates with one another, with the residential and the future commercial. So staff has had conversations with the applicant about this, and they will be proposing some changes to the development agreement provisions for you guys tonight with their presentation. There's a few things that they're not in agreement with staff on, so we'll discuss that after their presentation. So staff is recommending approval with a development agreement, and we have not received any written testimony at this time, and I'll stand for any questions. And I did want to say their building they did submit conceptual building elevations for you guys to look at. It's more of conceptual at this point, didn't provide super in-depth information, but that would be something that we would hope to get with future development agreement modification as well. And here are the DA provisions that are in the staff report. And now I'll stand for questions.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Perot.
since this will be a DA mod, it typically doesn't come before planning and zoning. It'll go straight to council or?
Madam Chair,
future
Commissioner.
application?
Yeah, Commissioner Pro, yes, the future development agreement modification would go straight to city council. So it wouldn't be, right now, they're just requesting annexation, so they're getting their DA. But in the DA that we created, it does require them to come back with a DA mod, which would only be required to go in front of city council. However, they are going to have to plat the property as well, and the preliminary plat will be seen by commission as well. So those could be potentially done concurrently, and that would be, I think, the preference from staff. Correct.
Would the applicant like to come forward? Would the applicant like to come forward? Thank you.
All right, good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Emily Mueller, 839 South Bridgeway Place in Eagle. I represent the applicant team, 5B Holdings, who is the owner of the property, and Idaho Holdings, who submitted the application. We want to first thank staff for their review of this, working with us. As Nick alluded, we have been in conversations and will continue to be in conversations up until the city council hearing to discuss some of the finer points of those staff conditions that I'll address. But do want to thank them for their discussion with us and continued discussion. So as staff said, this property is 70 acres southwest of the future Highway 16 intersection with Chinden 2026. It is north of the Coal Valley future school site. We have been in discussions with them about their timing, and like them, we will be dependent on a new sewer line that is being constructed. The sewer lift station is further west on McMillan and Canada. And the city's project is bringing the sewer, the main line and the force line to Star Road. And then at that point, sewer will really be available for a developer to come and get it. There's a couple different ways this property could sewer. One is to go up through Star Road and over. I think that's in the city's master plan. Or we could work with the school to sewer that way as well. So water is available to the east. So as sewer isn't available at the current moment, we would wait to develop until I believe that sewer should be in Star and McMillan. I think is scheduled for the end of 2026. So they are working fast, and we've been keeping track of that construction update. The city of Star is to the north of this project. The city of Star also has designated their property to the north of this for largely commercial use. And then some higher density residential up here. So that it's consistent with, Star's boundaries to the north. And then the only other pertinent development in the area is this, I believe it's about 10 acres, is a storage facility that was developed in the county. And so that is in the county. And when that developed, they constructed their portion of the Oahe Storm Boulevard, which will, per its name, go down towards Oahe High School and will border this site to the west. So as part of staff's conditions, we would build our share of that collector road plus 12 to make it a functional streetway. And to that point with traffic, we would be submitting a traffic impact study once we come forward with future applications. So the applications tonight are just for annexation and zoning, an initial zoning with a development agreement, and future applications would be for a preliminary plat, any CUPs that we think are appropriate, a development agreement modification to the extent that it's required. This property is included in the City of Meridian field-specific area plan that was adopted, I believe, in 2021. So the city did recently look at this 4 square miles of really kind of this last area of Meridian. That sewer lift station is going to bring this online. And this is just really a great area of Meridian that we're excited to be a part of. That specific area plan and the future land use map designate this for mixed use interchange and medium density residential. The annexation is appropriate here because all owners have consented to the annexation. The property is contiguous to city limits within the city area of impact, and services will be provided in a reasonable amount of time. As staff presented, the zoning that we are requesting is a commercial zoning along Chinden, 23 acres of neighborhood business, commercial use, and then 47 acres of medium density residential. Both of those are consistent with the comprehensive plan and the future land use map, field specific area plan. The commercial is approximately situated near, off of Highway 2026, near Highway 16 and the future collector roadway. There will be a plan for a stoplight at Oahe Storm Boulevard and Chinden. And so again, in conjunction with Star's development to the north, which is commercial, fits well within it. We're not in a vacuum here. So, and then the residential is also an appropriate zone and helps meet some of the comprehensive plan guides of developing housing near schools, near commercial use, and providing some of those housing needs. As staff said, we have provided some design guidelines that we believe meet the field-specific area plan to provide somewhat of a rural architectural theme, more modern farmhouse styles with, those clean architectural lines, shed roofs, gable roofs, and the materials that we feel are consistent with that design architectural standard. Additionally, we have provided the pathways that that match the comprehensive plan and the field specific area plan for connectivity amongst the commercial residential uses and then down to the school. In the staff report, staff also noted that, yeah, there needs to be with future preliminary plats, connectivity and emphasis on those pedestrian pathways, which we 100% agree with. As staff noted, we are in agreement with the majority of their conditions of approval, but would ask to change 3 of them. The first is to AC. As staff noted, we looked at the Institute of Traffic Engineers, the ITE traffic manual, and looked at what are those most intensive traffic uses that staff and the comprehensive plan want to avoid in this area. And those that we saw were gas stations, convenience stores, and car washes, and some of those other traffic generating uses. Drive-through establishments are a conditional use. So if we ever wanted to propose a drive-through, we would need to come with a conditional use permit and meet the standards of a conditional use permit application. Mark Bottles and myself agree that not all drive-through uses are the same. There are some drive-through uses that are traditionally very high traffic, and then there are some that are not. And post-COVID, the market has really demanded that of even non-traditionally thought of drive-through uses. So, you know, your Chipotle or your Costa Vida, things like of that nature. So we want to, we request that drive-through establishments not be categorically excluded at this time, and would appreciate the opportunity to, in the future, if we feel there is a use and a specific user and concept plan that match that, could bring that forward with a conditional use permit in the future. Similar reasoning also applies to this second change that we're requesting, which is to strike the requirement that retail commercial uses be restricted to building sizes of 10,000 square feet. There is a broad array of retail uses, a broad array of traffic generation. And so and really looking at the traffic generation model, smaller footprints, smaller buildings, smaller retail uses actually generate more traffic in the aggregate than a single larger establishment. So again, we just disagree, I guess, with the analysis that this is categorically going to bring more traffic. Really any kind of strip retail or smaller retail here per the traffic manual generates almost twice the traffic per square foot as a larger commercial development. So in that regard, we hear the staff, we've read, you know, the comp plan, and we just disagree with the ultimate analysis with that. And then finally, and this is a point that we've talked with staff at length about, is we would recommend and we would like to say that we don't need a development agreement modification moving forward. We have provided conceptual building renderings, materials, and on top of that, staff has also provided additional details about what needs to be incorporated into future preliminary plots. Pathway considerations, those sorts of things that we would like that to just be given the direction to us now, whatever we've proposed that doesn't match what they're looking for. Development agreement modifications are not entitled rights. And so we don't want to be in a situation that we don't have direction at the point of annexation. So we would prefer to have that direction now. And accordingly, we would like to come back with preliminary plats with any direction that staff has at this point, but not be required to go through a more subjective development agreement modification process. That would be more subjective in the future. So we believe that what we've submitted complies with the comprehensive plan, and would just ask staff for more direction rather than waiting for that direction down the road. So with that, I will stand for any questions, and we appreciate your time.
I have a question for staff. Bill, we had talked about identifying drive-throughs in small, medium, and large, for a simplistic way of putting it. Where are we in that process?
Yeah. Madam Chair, members of the commission, those rules are in effect now. So we do have our tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 drive-throughs. And then on Tuesday night, the ordinance was approved to establish the new process, which requires tier 2 to come to you and tier 3 to go to city council. Or they go to you as a recommending body, but then they go on to city council for approval. So, and then again, tier 1 would only require a conditional use permit if it was next to a residential use. So it could be a permitted use in a CN zone.
Correct.
And again, those were banks, pharmacies, kind of those low generating traffic uses that Emily was speaking to, and where she said they agreed that not all drive-throughs are the same, and we thought the same thing, and that's why we changed our code.
So Emily, you're aware of those changes, correct?
Madam Chair, no, I'm not. I'm sorry, that was adopted on,
It's been in discussion for a while, but you're saying city council actually and it adopted it just this past Tuesday?
Well, Madam Chair, maybe some clarification. So the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 changes were approved in October.
Okay,
They just aren't currently reflected in the code. And then the process changes, the process that was chosen to how they would be heard, whether they were administrative or conditional use by P and Z or council, that was approved on Tuesday night. So basically, yes, the new definitions for drive-throughs, the new processes for drive-throughs have been adopted and are in effect.
okay, so
So this
since
project could,
October,
yeah.
dry cleaners and banks are considered tier 1. Coffee shop and smaller brand drive-throughs would be tier 2. And then like your In-N-Outs and Raising Cane's would be like tier 3. And what that means for you is that if you have a client who wants those things, it used to all come through planning and zoning, and tier 1 gets director approval, tier 2 and tier 3 come through planning and zoning. But the ultimate decision for like the big drive-throughs, the really high-end brands, high volume brands would just go to council, right? So I guess the reason I'm saying that is that for the drive-through establishments, for your condition of approval for C, we would just have to kind of see what they are. We'll see what the commissioners say about that. But before we go into public testimony, does anybody have any questions for the applicant at this time?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Smith?
I have kind of a follow-on question of that for staff specifically regarding, the tier that is most concerned, right? Because on one hand, obviously, I don't think it would make sense to have it in now here. And so I think, would it make sense to restrict to a certain level? But would you be concerned with, for example, a tier 1 not having commission level CUP approval and only going to director, absent some sort of requirement for a DA mod?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Smith, that's a good question. No, because this is pretty fresh. If I would to go back and write it, I'd probably allow for tier 1s.
Okay.
Because I can read it to you. Drive-through, so tier 1 would be a drive-through associated with a financial institution, automated teller machine, so an ATM, pharmacy, laundry, dry cleaning, restaurants limited to online or mobile ordering only, so like a pickup window that's online ordering, or other comparable uses as determined by the director. Typically, those would be a lot lower traffic generating than tier 2 or tier 3, which would be pretty much any restaurant that actually has an ordering and a pickup window. So I think that would be something staff would be comfortable with, would be allowing for tier 1s, but limiting tier 2s and tier 3s.
And just to follow up again, Nick, so mixed use interchange because of Highway 16's impact at really at the junction of where your property stands. Is tier 2 even allowed in a mixed use interchange?
Madam Chair, so mixed use interchange is a flume, so future land use map designation, but it's not
Right.
a zoning. So the zoning is what would be tied to what allows drive-through establishments. So no, I mean, in talking with the team and in my analysis, mixed use interchange is meant for really low traffic generating uses, really not even retail uses. It's more for employment where you actually have trip capture, where people, go stay for the day and then they'll leave. And then the intent behind that is to limit State Highway 16 in Chinden. We all know, once it actually is in operation, that's going to be a very busy interchange and intersection. And trying to push the traffic away from those areas with more of the regional retail users, which we do have plans for in the field district, is really the intent behind that. So we don't get big regional draw commercial users that's going to generate, thousands of trips a day, for like some big boxes do. So that's really the intent in the mixed use interchange, is to find uses that are neighborhood serving, because it does allow for some low density residential or medium to low density residential, but finding the balance between what kind of trip generation, and with what we have right now. And I know the applicant, I've talked with the applicant, they don't necessarily have an exact plan for the commercial at this time. And that's why they don't have, buildings shown or drive aisles. So without having that information, it's really hard for me to say, yeah, this looks like it would be something that would be acceptable, because I don't have any square footages or types of uses to gauge a, traffic generation off of. I can't have that conversation with ACHG because they don't even know what the uses are going to be and what the square footages are. So that's kind of the difficulty or the challenge with this.
Gotcha.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Stoll first, please.
So Nick, following up on your point that you don't have the information, is that why you're requiring a development agreement modification, that you need additional information?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Stoll, that is correct. That's really one of the primary drivers, is, especially I would say with the commission and with council, they definitely, more details up front is definitely preferred, so we can, and from staff's perspective as well, so then we can ensure something is consistent with what was seen, so we can ensure that the concept plan and what is actually being built is the same, or generally or substantially consistent as determined by the director. So, obviously sometimes square footages will change, you'll go up 2,000 or go down 2,000 square feet on a commercial building. That we would consider that substantially consistent. We'd look at the larger area and find that, but that was correct. You're spot on. Getting that information is why we want the development agreement modification, as well as seeing the integration with the residential uses to the south. Because with Coal Valley Christian School to the south, it's K through 12, if I'm not mistaken. There's going to be high school age students that are going to want to go on their lunches or after school, go maybe get something to drink, something to eat. And it's pretty common. We see that in the city throughout. So seeing how that integration and all that works is a primary driver behind that development agreement modification. That's correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Perot.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening. So can you share with us what the purpose would be to annex now, but not have details in your concept plan? And obviously you'll start paying city taxes and whatnot, but you're quite a ways out from actually having a full plan developed.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Perot, yes. We really, this is an appropriate time to annex. The city services will be there soon. The school is, going to get going. And we, at this time, we think that, I guess how I would answer that is we agree with the comprehensive plan. We're not asking for a comprehensive plan map amendment. And we agree with, all the guidelines pretty much that they're giving in terms of integration, in terms of how it fronts that. But the uses, we don't have an exact user yet. But I think that we really can, once rooftops get there, I think we need to see rooftops and see plans come in place until those commercial users, even office development, all of those kinds of things will come in. So I think really from a developer's perspective, having a plan in place really is a catalyst then to get those users in. And which is why we will agree to different design guidelines and those sorts of things right now.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Perot.
So I remember when the Fields area plan was being developed and put together, and the intention of it was for it to look different than other parts of Meridian, have a different feel, a little bit more of a neighborhood feel rather than a kind of a bigger commercial feel. And also to have a real variety of housing types, and just having the R8, I don't think that really meets sort of the intention. So I'm curious if the developer has considered or looked at options of giving more variety of housing.
Madam Chair, Commissioner, thank you. The R8 does allow for obviously a range of single-family product types. So I believe the single-family lot minimum is 40 feet of street frontage. And the developers, the different, so we won't develop it ourselves. We work with a number of different local and national home builders, really a wide range. And it really becomes market driven in terms of what product type they want to develop. You know, not a lot of home builders are wanting to do townhomes right now because really the cost to build townhomes is really the same as a single family home, but the value in a single family home detached is there much longer and is much greater for those homeowners. And, you know, sometimes you might think that more single family developers want to do just, you know, would do the minimum, would do 40 feet. But a lot of developers right now are wanting to do at least 60 feet wide lots. That's really what this market is. And so it just gives some flexibility. I think there is flexibility within the R8 zone while also staying within the comprehensive plan. And yeah, you know, it's a big area. It's 4 square miles. There's a lot of other areas designated for medium high density, designated for apartments all throughout it. So this really is that single family. And the R8 zone is kind of the perfect zone to allow for that flexibility in this specific type of product, which would be a detached single family house.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, I'd appreciate some clarity. I think you said something earlier, specifically looking at AF, kind of this last section, that is kind of in tension with kind of the conversation that I think we're having, which is on one hand, you're asking kind of for some more guidance from staff and more direction rather than waiting until down the line. On the other hand, it seems like the staff's kind of trying to give you that by saying, hey, here are some areas that we would restrict, you know, we would want to see restricted. Here are some areas that we think don't make sense here. Here's some guidance of, you know, as you're looking for different customers. Help me understand, help me square that circle. Like on one hand, you're kind of asking for some more guidance. Yeah, I guess I'm struggling to understand what about the guidance itself is it that it's too restrictive? Is it that it's maybe not the guidance you're open for? Or, if you could help me.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioner Smith. Yes. So with regard to those uses, like the actual uses, that is guidance from staff that we expressly disagree with, those 2 uses. And the CUP with the drive-through, like, so that's a use, right? And so for example, we think that there should be some drive-through uses allowed here. So to that extent, we disagree with that guidance. The staff report, I think with regard to the design standards, and I'm sorry, the staff report, this doesn't have pages on it, but it's C, design standard analysis, CA, I think, and that's in bold. To my understanding, and staff can, I don't want to speak for them, but in some of our conversations, this is some of the design guidelines. Like when, you know, staff said, hey, well, with your commercial, we don't have your layout. So we don't know if you're going to include a plaza area between the commercial and the residential. So that's the first bullet point. So we need a DA mod so that we can make sure you include a plaza area. My suggestion is, how about we put that in the development agreement now that says in your commercial, you will include a plaza area between the commercial and residential. That's an example. Yes.
Any other questions for the applicant before we take public testimony? Okay, I think we're good.
Thank you,
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we have anybody in advance to sign up to testify?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have Darcy Hart.
Hi, if you can state your name and address for the record, that'd be great.
Sure can. Good evening. For the record, Darcy Hart, PO Box 1304 Eagle. My partners and I own the parcel to the north at 7015 Chinden. We're the storage facility.
Oh, okay.
We were so excited to see this meeting invitation for the neighborhood meeting.
Uh-huh.
However, it was a little underwhelming to say the least. The one-page letter contained no project description or site plan. We also noted that there was no preliminary plat or landscaping, nothing to describe the project itself, and we now understand why that is. There has been no traffic impact study, no actual preliminary plat submitted, nothing substantial for review. We also noted that 48 acres with an R8 zoning allows for 384 single-family residences. Now, that's not much of a small ask, in my opinion. Without a traffic impact study, how can they ask for modifications to any conditions? While my team and I are very excited to see the growth in the area, we benefit from it as well. Two things can be true at the same time. Rezone and annexation should be the result of a materially complete, heard and approved application by all agencies involved. If the applicant disagrees with the analysis, they need to provide their own for review. This evening, the applicant is requesting your approval for the maximum allowable residential density while giving nothing of substance for any of you to review. They seek the valuation of an R8 rezone on this parcel with the possibility of nearly 400 single-family homes with no preliminary plat. I must point out also, the applicant is listed as a stakeholder for the Meridian Field sub-area plan and sat in years ago to assist and give input while this area was designed. I think we could do better. While there is a determination by the Meridian Public Works, the parcel can be annexed today, the trunk line sewer connection is roughly a year or more away. This gives the applicant plenty of time to prepare a preliminary plat, a landscaping plan, and conduct a traffic impact study for review. Further, when you look at the exhibit in the packet, Exhibit D, showing the concept plan, it depicts a proposed road design, an amenity, and a park, but without a preliminary plat for ACHD to review, it's a guess at its very best. My partners and I are humbly requesting the application be held pending the completion of the required items as they are attempting to forego them tonight. Once those requirements are met, this application can be heard as process dictates. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody else to testify?
Madam Chair, no one else has signed up and nobody is in attendance online.
Is there anybody else in chambers that'd like to speak? You guys good? Would the applicant like to come forward and address Ms. Hart's concerns?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Commissioners. I understand, I just wanted to address the density. I'm not exactly sure where Ms. Hart is getting 400 units. Maybe she's confusing R8 with saying that that allows 8 dwelling units to the acre. That's not how the City of Meridian code works. It's not like R8 means 8 dwelling units to the acre. It's a dimensional standard. So I can just say that to the extent that I don't know if she did a site layout to see with all the dimensional standards how that would work, but that would be 8 dwelling units to the acre, which I don't know how you would make that work with single family homes. So that was really the only thing. Again, we will do a traffic impact study and that will be part of a preliminary plat application and any commercial uses. So definitely we'll be doing that and we'll be abiding by any kind of ACHD or ITD requirements at the time. Thank you.
Thanks. May I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second to close the public hearing for North Meridian Fields. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I think with we're all getting used to the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 of the drive-through uses. Because it's kind of new language for us to completely eliminate drive-through establishments on number 4A and C. I agree with the applicant on that, but maybe it would be allowed drive-through establishments tier 1. And staff had indicated that that might be allowable. For mixed-use interchanges, and considering I live in one as well for Highway 16, to be able to have a 10,000 square foot store in a possible very congested area, I think will be challenging. And that's why the DA modification for at least the commercial part of it, along with your preliminary plat, to me would be essential. You want clarification, but the city needs transparency. And so by providing the DA modification, then there's no surprises. And because not only do you disagree, but we also have challenges, not only with this commission, but with city council when it comes to intended uses for any zone or use on the flume, like mixed use interchanges, it can be interpreted in other ways. It may be your interpretation that, well, we're following the rules, but the reason why we manage each application individually is because the corner of Franklin and Black Hat is a lot different than the corner of Chinden and McDermott, even though they may be zoned the same way, but their intended uses are going to be different. And the fact that your application right now is just 2 colors and very, very vague leads me hesitant to approve these conditions of approval because of yours, because I think there needs to be more information, especially going to council. And I think annexing you into the city is the right choice. If this is the right time, even though that substation's not available, that's your choice. That's fine, but through the DA modification and the preliminary plat and any other conditional use permits that we might need for the commercial part of it, and including the R8, I think needs to be better defined, and you can do that during that permitting process. So because we have a usual and customary way of managing how those next steps go, I don't think those should be foregone here. So to summarize my thoughts, yes, you should be annexed. No, I don't think your conditions of approval, your crossouts should be included at this time.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Perot.
thank you. I agree with you on the conditions of approval, although I feel like that conversation's even preliminary. I just didn't hear from the applicant a really compelling reason to annex this right now. It's just going to sit, and there's not really anything that can be done until we have the details that will be needed for the DA modification. I imagine there's some financial planning maybe on their part that, or perhaps they feel it's necessary to be annexed to have discussions with end users, and that's okay. But this obligates the city to provide services to this area and obligates our taxpayers. And I just don't, I just not understanding why the need would be necessary now. I'd rather wait and see. I mean, annexation is the very first kind of latitude that we have to see some, more clarity, more information on what the applicant intends. And so I'm always hesitant to sort of give up that ability as a decision maker until we have more information.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith.
I generally agree kind of with your position. I think I'm okay with annexing at the time, given some of the kind of, I think, direction and feedback planning staff has gotten at a director level, from what I understand. Yeah, I think there's a disconnect here, though, regarding these conditions and regarding the planning. give me grace when I say this because I don't want to, I'm not trying to cast any aspersions or any implications, but it feels like there's almost a desire for planning, for city staff to act in a project development and project planning capacity, like for the individual site. And their job is to review from the perspective of the city, not to dictate, you know, from whole cloth where everything should go on the map. And so discussing kind of plazas, for example, the staff can't tell where a plaza should probably go until they see where the rest of the plan, what the rest of the plan looks like. They can't dictate how, you know, traffic impact should be incorporated into the plan until they have something to, you know, look at regarding a traffic impact study or things like that. So I think from the city perspective, it seems like services are already kind of being extended this direction. I don't feel like there's an obligation that the city is an additional obligation that we place on the city beyond what is already kind of in the intention for the near future. From what I understand, I really do think though that absent some sort of development agreement requirement or future DA mod requirement, that there's just not enough developed here to, you know, to sink your teeth into. I agree. I think that especially given that staff is okay with it, allowing tier one would make sense. Honestly, if this were more developed, I might even be personally okay with a tier two allowance, but we don't, again, we don't have that level. I could see a tier two kind of amount of volume here potentially for some smaller kind of restaurant drive-through things like that. But again, without more clarity and without more transparency into the actual plans, I know the applicant is not the developer themselves or the intended, you know, builder of you know, doing the actual build out of this application. So they don't have all that visibility, you know, locked in place. But yeah, I think because of those reasons, we need to kind of limit that to, you know, absent some sort of DA mod or some sort of future application. So I'm okay with the annexation. I think all of staff's, you know, staff's recommendations make sense. Absent, you know, we can allow a tier one.
Madam Chair, I'm in agreement with your positions. I'm particularly in agreement because the directors have said that it's okay to do the annexation at this point in time, even though the sewer facilities are not present. I would not. Okay. I would not be supportive of the annexation without the development agreement modification. Given the lack of detail that we currently have, I wouldn't recommend moving forward. Okay, so now we'll try it.
All right, you're
All
good.
right. So if we, and I am in agreement with having the tier one drive-throughs on there, so.
Right. Commissioner Gelsomino, you have any comments?
Madam Chair, I'll echo my fellow commissioners.
Okay, thank you. Anybody want to try a stab at a motion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Smith,
after considering all staff applicant and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to the City Council of file number H-2026-0003 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of March 19th with a modification to allow for tier one drive-throughs.
Seconded.
it's been moved and second to approve North Meridian Fields. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I will take one more motion.
Madam Chair.
Seconded.
It's been moved and second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone.
My thing's been wonky.
Madam Chair, did you motion to adjourn?